Jesus says in the gospel, "I am the bread of life." That word bread can also be translated as food, simply as food, general food. I am the food of life. And that's what we believe. Bold claim from Jesus, but we know that he is the one that nourishes us. Now, if you think about, we need food to live, of course. We need good nourishment, good nutrition. And especially when we're preparing to do something maybe that's out of the ordinary. You know, for example, if someone close by was training for a marathon, then you need to eat the right things in order to sustain your training. If you start eating the wrong things, the training gets harder and, you know, it doesn't go to plan. It's just so much more difficult. You need to get the right energy, the right fuel, the right nutrition inside of you. And you see with footballers as well, I always laugh because in the past, there was always that tradition of professional footballers having steak and chips as their pre-match meal. Now, of course, steak and chips has its own nutrition. Who doesn't like steak and chips except perhaps vegetarians? But it's a lovely meal, but it's not the right meal for a pre-match meal to eat just before or a few hours before you're going to play football. They now have all these sports scientists, the doctors, the nutritionists, working out what the best thing is to eat, and it's usually things containing carbohydrates and so on and so forth, so that they can burn off that energy. So that's just a small example or two of how we need to eat the right things in our life, even in our normal life. You go to the doctor, if you've got high cholesterol, you know it's because you've probably been eating the wrong things and not putting in your body what your body really needs. Some things taste really nice that are not good for us, and we need a good diet. So Jesus tells us that he is the food of life, or the food for life, we could say as well. He himself, his very person, is where we get our nutrition for our spiritual lives. And of course, our physical lives are only in order properly, and our mental lives, our mental health, we don't compartmentalize these things. You need to be getting the right nutrition in all those areas, but it's our spiritual life. That's what we believe as followers of Christ, as believers in God, that our spiritual life underpins everything. If we can get that right, the others follow. And so we search for the place to find that food, that nutrition, that energy, that fuel for our spiritual life. And Jesus tells us that we find it in him. He is the bread of life. And of course, because we've been reading about in John chapter 6 the last few weeks, it's all about the Eucharist. And Jesus has given us a gift of himself in an obvious, guaranteed way where we can consume him. He becomes our literal food because he's put himself into the form of bread and transformed that bread into his body and his presence, his real, true presence there. And so we're very, really privileged, those of us who can receive communion and really truly believe that that is Jesus. When he says, I'm the bread of life, I am the food of life, we can come to Mass and sample that food. We can eat that food, consume that food, and nourish ourselves, find our nutrition, our energy when we come to Mass and we receive Holy Communion, when we receive the Eucharist, when we receive Jesus in the form of bread, the body of Christ. That's what keeps us going. And why wouldn't anyone want to receive that gift? It's such an amazing gift, and we have such ready access to it. You know, sometimes we lose our reverence for it. We should never lose that because it's so precious, and what an amazing gift it is. But we're also privileged because we can just come and receive Jesus. And of course, it's that reception of Jesus that then helps us be worthy as well of receiving him. We, of course, know we've got to be in a state of grace as well for it to have its full effects. But it's just a wonderful gift. And that psalm we have today is something we can take to heart. This is probably the one phrase I just want us all to remember this week. Taste and see that the Lord is good. So if you've not been to communion in a while, or you're not even Catholic, or if you come every day, every week, just come and taste and see that the Lord is good. Taste Jesus in Holy Communion and see that the Lord is good. It always makes me laugh as well when we're preparing the children for First Holy Communion. We get them to eat an unconsecrated host. You know, it's just the bread. Nothing's been done to it. Just so that they get used to the taste. And quite often, you know, the surprise, it doesn't really taste of anything, really. It's just a wafer kind of thing. But one child once said it tastes a bit like ready break. I don't know if that's true or not, because it's been a long time since I've had ready break. I've had porridge, but I don't know if ready break's any different. Anyway, stop waffling on. The children taste the unconsecrated host, just so that they're used to knowing that when they receive Holy Communion properly, then it's Jesus that they're receiving, that they're not going to be surprised. So that phrase, taste and see that the Lord is good, I encourage anyone who can, come and taste and see that the Lord is good, and you won't regret it.